Welcome, dear listener. Tonight we step into a story woven from whispers of old. It is not a tale of war, nor of conquest, but of wisdom and light. Long ago, in the heart of ancient Greece, secrets were guarded by the goddess Athena. Among her many gifts, one legend spoke of a shield unlike any other. It was not built to strike, nor to wound, but to reveal and to guide. They called it the Shield of Light, a mirror of truth hidden from unworthy hands. Only those who seek with humble hearts may find its glow. Our journey begins not with heroes of glory, but with a quiet seeker, one who dreams of a light shining beyond shadows of doubt. This seeker does not chase power, but clarity. And so the story unfolds, step by step, like a path through mist. Each moment brings us closer to the heart of the mystery. Athena watches, her wisdom like a silent star above. Let us walk together into this legend. For within its folds lies not only myth but meaning. And perhaps, dear listener, a reflection meant for you. In the beginning, there was silence. Not the silence of emptiness, but the silence that carries weight and memory. It was the hush of ancient stones, the quiet of temples standing beneath the stars. And in that silence, whispers stirred. They were not shouts of warriors, nor cries of victory, but softer voices. They spoke of a shield, not made for battle, but for truth. A shield forged with wisdom, shaped by light, and hidden far from human greed. This was the legend of the Shield of Light. The people of old said it belonged to Athena, the goddess of wisdom and clarity. She was the guardian of balance, the keeper of justice, the voice of reason. Where others built weapons to conquer, she created a mirror to reveal. This shield was said to shine when held with humility. Its glow was not fire nor flame, but the quiet light of understanding. It could not wound, nor strike, nor break. Instead, it reflected the truth of whoever stood before it. Some feared it, for truth can be heavier than steel. Others longed for it, believing it held the key to harmony. But Athena, wise as ever, knew the hearts of mortals. She knew they would seek it not to understand, but to possess. And so, she hid the shield, veiling it in riddles and silence. She placed it where only a seeker of wisdom, not power, could arrive. Centuries passed, and the story became a faint echo. It lived in songs sung by travelers near the firelight. It lived in the whispers of oracles, spoken with half-closed eyes. It lived in the dreams of those who wished to see more clearly. One such dreamer, a quiet soul, began to listen. This was not a hero carved from marble or crowned in gold. This was someone ordinary, whose heart leaned toward questions, not answers. Night after night, a vision returned. A soft glow like dawn breaking inside a cave. A round shape, gleaming yet gentle, held in silence. The seeker awoke each time with a feeling that lingered. Not fear, not desire, but longing. A longing to understand, to walk the path toward that light. And so began the quiet call of the journey. The Shield of Light was no longer just a story told in whispers. It became a beacon, pulling the seeker forward step by step. The legend unfolded not as a map, but as a rhythm hidden in forests, rivers, mountains, and stars. Athena's presence was felt, not seen. She watched as she always had, guiding without a word. Her wisdom was not in commands, but in silence that taught. The seeker did not yet know the trials ahead, but in their heart, the whisper had already taken root. The shield was not to be conquered. The shield was not to be claimed. The shield was to be understood. And in that understanding, perhaps the world itself could be changed. This is how the story begins, dear listener. not with thunder, nor flame, nor conquest, but with a whisper of legends that refuse to fade, a whisper that waits for those willing to listen. And so, the path opens, the journey has begun, and the shield of light shines, waiting in silence. The night was quiet when the dream returned. The seeker lay awake, listening to the hush of the world. Stars shimmered above, like scattered embers of some forgotten fire. And within the silence, the vision appeared again. A glow, round and steady, brighter than the moon, softer than the sun. It called, not with words, but with presence. The seeker felt the pull, as one feels the tide, steady and unyielding. There was no command, no demand, only invitation. It was as if the shield of light wished not to be found, but understood. The seeker's heart trembled, caught between doubt and longing. Why me? The thought whispered in the darkness. Yet the dream gave no answer, only light. Each morning the vision lingered like dew upon grass. It followed the seeker into waking hours, gentle but insistent. And so the call to seek was born. It was not a call of glory or triumph. It was not a call to fight or conquer. It was a call to listen, to walk, to search with patience. The seeker packed little, for little was needed. Not swords, nor shields, nor armor weighed the traveler down. Only a small satchel, a piece of bread, and a heart open to mystery. The journey began at dawn, when the first light touched the earth. The village behind lay silent, unaware of the quiet quest. No farewell was spoken, no songs were sung. The seeker simply walked, following a road that led nowhere clear. Each step felt both heavy and light, uncertain yet necessary. The dream had carved a path where no map existed, and so the feet followed the heart, guided by unseen hands. As the day stretched forward, the seeker felt the world shift. Birds flew overhead, their wings beating like steady drums. Trees lined the path, whispering secrets in the wind. The air itself seemed alive, as though aware of the journey. And through it all, the dream's glow lingered. Not before the eyes, but behind them, deep within. The seeker wondered if Athena herself had planted this vision. Was it a test, a gift, or perhaps both? Whatever the truth, the pull could not be denied. The seeker was no hero carved into stories. No warrior with trophies, no sage with wisdom earned. Yet something in the heart aligned with the shield's call. It was enough to keep walking, even into uncertainty. The road grew quiet as the sun began to fall. Shadows stretched long, weaving patterns upon the earth. And the seeker paused, watching the horizon glow with fire. There was beauty in the stillness, beauty in not knowing. For the call was not about answers, but about seeking. And so the seeker whispered softly, as if to the stars, "I will follow." The words floated into the night, carried by the wind. And for a moment, the glow flickered again in the mind's eye. It was softer now, like a smile hidden within the dark. The seeker breathed deeply, knowing the path had only begun. And though the way ahead was shrouded, the call remained clear. It was the call not of conquest, but of clarity. The call not of power, but of peace. The seeker walked on, step by step, into the unknown, guided by a dream, held by a whisper, carried by light. And so part 2 of the story closes, not with answers, but with beginnings. For every journey starts with a single call. And this, dear listener, was the seeker's. The seeker walked for many days, guided only by the whisper of the dream. The road curved through valleys, across rivers, and beneath endless skies. Yet with every step, the call of the shield of light grew clearer. It was not a sound, nor a vision, but a steady pull in the heart. One evening, as dusk softened the horizon, a small temple appeared. Its stones were worn by time, its pillars leaning, its roof touched by ivy. Within the quiet halls, incense lingered like a memory of prayer. The seeker entered with hesitant steps, hands folded in respect. There, at the center, sat an oracle draped in pale cloth, eyes half closed, lips still, yet her presence filled the room. She seemed both ageless and fragile, like a flame guarded by silence. The seeker bowed, unsure of words, but the oracle spoke first. "You carry a light that does not belong to you," she whispered. Her voice was soft, yet it trembled with timeless weight. "You seek the shield, though you do not name it aloud." The seeker's breath caught, heart quickening beneath the truth. "How do I find it?" The question slipped unguarded. The oracle smiled faintly, as though hearing a child's plea. "You do not find it. You arrive when you are ready." Her words fell into the air like stones into water. Ripples of meaning spread, deeper than their sound. The seeker frowned, trying to grasp the hidden sense. The oracle lifted a hand, motioning to silence. "Listen more than you speak. See more than you seek. Learn more than you take." Her gaze softened, and she looked far beyond the seeker's face. "The shield is not for conquest. It is for truth. Truth is heavier than steel and sharper than a blade. If you would walk toward it, you must first walk within yourself." The seeker lowered their eyes, humbled by the weight of the counsel. Doubt flickered. Was such a journey even possible? Sensing this, the oracle breathed slowly, her words like wind. "The path is not carved on maps, but in silence and patience. Your steps must echo not in noise, but in understanding. The shield reveals not the world, but the soul." The seeker trembled, realizing the trials ahead would not be of stone or storm. They would be of heart, of thought, of spirit. The oracle closed her eyes fully, her voice now fading. "Go where the wind carries whispers, where water reflects without ripple. There you will begin to see." Her breathing slowed, her figure seemed to fold into stillness. The temple grew hushed once more, only shadows keeping watch. The seeker bowed deeply, carrying the words like fire inside. Stepping out into the night, the sky unfolded in stars. Each star shimmered like a grain of truth scattered by Athena's hand. The seeker understood little, yet felt everything. The oracle had given no map, no clear road, no final answer. And yet, clarity had bloomed like dawn upon the heart. The journey was not to possess the shield, but to grow toward it. The seeker whispered into the starlit air, "I will listen." And the wind, gentle and unbroken, seemed to answer back. Thus, the seeker carried the oracle's gift forward. A gift not of direction, but of wisdom's seed. And as the night stretched long, the dream glowed brighter within. Athena's gaze lingered from afar, silent but present. The path would be long, but the seeker was ready to walk. For the call was no longer just a dream. It had become a promise born beneath ancient stones, carried into the endless night. The seeker left the temple with the oracle's words burning softly inside. The night air was cool, carrying scents of pine and earth. Above, stars gleamed like eyes watching, silent but attentive. Each step on the road felt guided by something unseen. Days passed, and the land grew wilder, less touched by human hand. Paths narrowed, grass rose higher, and silence deepened. One morning, mist lay thick across the ground, veiling the way. The seeker moved carefully, unsure of what lay ahead. And soon the trees thickened into a vast forest, It was a forest unlike any other, alive with echoes. Every sound carried farther than expected, bouncing from unseen walls. The seeker paused, testing the air with a single word. "Hello," they said softly. At once the forest replied, "Hello." But the echo was strange, not identical, almost thoughtful. The seeker frowned, whispering, "Who are you?" The reply came, "Who are you?" Yet the tone was not mocking. It was curious. The seeker shivered, realizing this place was more than wood and leaf. It was alive with memory, with reflection. This was the forest of echoes, spoken of only in riddles. The oracle's words returned, "Listen more than you speak." And so the seeker tried again, whispering, "I am seeking." The forest answered, "I am seeking." The words folded back, but in them was a hidden mirror. The seeker felt the truth sting gently. They were not seeking an object, but seeking themselves. Each question cast into the forest was returned with weight. "Why do you walk? Why do you walk?" The answer echoed, forcing the seeker to pause. Why indeed? Was it for glory? For proof? For pride? No. The dream carried no such desire. The seeker's heart whispered softly. It was for clarity. The forest answered with a sigh of wind, as if in agreement. Birdsong rose, but even the birds carried echoes in their tune. Every sound was layered, as though the world itself spoke twice. The seeker grew quiet, realizing the lesson hidden in the air. Wisdom is not in what is spoken, but in what is heard. The forest was teaching patience, teaching to listen beyond the surface. Hours passed as the seeker walked deeper beneath the canopy. Each step crunched softly, each breath returned in subtle echoes. The seeker tried silence, and the forest grew silent too. In that stillness, a deeper echo stirred, not of voice, but of thought. It was as though the forest spoke not with sound, but with presence. The seeker understood then. The echo was a mirror. Every sound, every word, every thought returned to show its truth. And truth, however small, could not be hidden here. The seeker bowed their head, humbled by the revelation. At last, as dusk settled, the forest thinned to an open glade. Mist rose gently, glowing faintly in the fading light. The echoes grew soft, fading into stillness, as if their lesson was complete. The seekers sat upon a stone, reflecting on the journey. They had spoken many words in life, but listened to few. Here, listening had become the true key. The forest had given its gift, quiet but clear. When the seeker rose again, the heart felt lighter. The shield of light would not be found by shouting questions. It would be found by listening for answers already within. The seeker stepped forward, leaving the forest of echoes behind. And though the forest faded, its lesson remained. Truth speaks not in noise, but in silence that listens. Thus ended the fourth part of the journey, and the seeker walked on, guided by echoes that no longer frightened, but taught. The path from the forest of echoes opened into a wide meadow filled with silver grass. The grass swayed as though moved by hidden hands, shimmering beneath the pale moonlight. The seeker felt a hush fall upon their spirit, deeper than any silence before. This was the meadow of whispers, a place the old songs spoke of in fragments. Each blade of grass carried a memory, each sigh of wind a story. The seeker stepped forward, careful not to break the rhythm of the field. As feet touched the soil, 1,000 voices stirred softly like waves upon shore. The whispers rose and fell, some gentle, some urgent, none fully clear. The seeker listened, remembering the lesson of the forest, to hear before speaking. One whisper floated closer, distinct among the rest. calling the seeker's name. It was not a voice of flesh, but of essence, as though the meadow knew them. The seeker knelt, brushing the grass with fingertips, and the whispers swirled into harmony. Fragments of past lives drifted in the air, moments of laughter, regret, choices unspoken. The seeker shivered, recognizing echoes of their own soul woven in the voices. The meadow was not merely alive, it was memory incarnate. Each traveler who crossed it left an imprint, a trace that lived in the whispers. And now the seeker walked among these echoes of countless lives. The seeker asked in thought, not aloud, "What must I learn here?" The meadow replied with a chorus, words rising like mist. "To know the light, you must first face the shadow within." The seeker's heart trembled, for shadows were harder to face than storms. Memories long buried rose like shapes in the fog. Times of doubt, of hesitation, of silence when words were needed. Each whisper carried a weight of honesty, neither accusing nor forgiving. The seeker sat in the grass, letting the memories wash over gently. Tears welled, though no sadness filled them, only recognition. The meadow's voices softened, wrapping the seeker in quiet acceptance. It was as if the meadow itself forgave, though forgiveness was not asked. The seeker realized then that truth was not punishment. Truth was a mirror, showing light and shadow together. Only by embracing both could one walk forward whole. The shield of light, perhaps, was less an object than a state of being. The seeker whispered aloud, voice steady now, "I accept my shadow." At once the meadow brightened, as though dawn touched its edges. The whispers grew joyful, rising like songbirds breaking the night. The seeker stood lighter, carrying both memory and lesson in balance. The meadow of whispers fell quiet, as though its task was complete. Only a faint hum remained, a reminder that truth lingers always. With calm steps, the seeker moved on, leaving the silver grass behind. The road stretched ahead, unknown, yet no longer feared. For now, the seeker carried within both shadow and light. And the journey deepened, not just across the land, but within the soul. Thus ended the 5th chapter of the path. And the seeker walked onward, guided by whispers that no longer bound, but freed. The seeker journeyed onward, leaving the meadow behind, stepping into a landscape shaped by stone and silence. The ground grew harder, the soil giving way to rock, pale and cracked beneath the sun. Hills rose like ancient guardians, their shadows long and unmoving against the earth. This was the valley of stillness, where time itself seemed reluctant to move. No birds sang, no wind stirred. Only the slow pulse of silence remained. The seeker paused often, unsure if the stillness was comfort or warning. Each breath felt louder than it should, each step echoing against unseen walls. The valley held no whispers, no echoes, only its heavy hush. Yet in that quiet, thoughts grew sharper, more demanding of notice. The seeker realized the valley was not empty, but full of reflection. Here, the silence stripped away distraction, leaving only the voice within. The seeker sat upon a flat stone, the sun warm but unyielding. Thoughts surfaced, uninvited, of choices made and paths not taken. Doubt whispered faintly, but the valley offered no reply. Instead, the silence pressed, urging the seeker to answer alone. Why continue the journey? Why search for a shield that may not exist? The questions rose heavy, more burdensome than the rocky path itself. The seeker closed their eyes, breathing slowly, grounding in the stillness. Memories of the forest and meadow returned, the echo, the whisper. They had been mirrors, but this silence was deeper, more relentless. here there was no reflection, only the truth uncovered by stillness. The seeker whispered aloud, voice fragile against the valley's hush. I fear the journey will lead to nothing. The silence remained, neither comforting nor condemning. The seeker tried again, louder. I fear myself unworthy of light. The stillness held, yet within it something shifted, an awareness. Not of sound, but of presence, as though the valley itself listened. The seeker felt a strange release in speaking the fear aloud. Words once heavy became lighter once given to the silence. The valley taught by holding, by offering no distraction, no escape. Only the truth of what was said, bare and unpolished. The seeker understood then. Stillness was not emptiness. Stillness was a vessel where truth could be laid down. The seeker breathed deeply, letting the silence cradle the confession. And in that moment, peace rose softly, like water filling a hollow stone. The valley did not answer, but it did not need to. The silence itself was the answer, showing that worth was not proven by sound. Worth was steady, like stone, revealed in quiet resilience. The seeker rose, steadier, lighter, though the valley remained unchanged. Each step forward was no longer burdened by the fear of emptiness. For silence had shown itself not as absence, but as teacher. At the edge of the valley, the seeker turned once to look back. The still stones seemed to glow faintly in the fading light. A promise lingered there, silent yet certain, that the lesson would remain. The seeker bowed slightly, a gesture of respect to the still land. Then, with quiet steps, the seeker moved onward to the next horizon. The valley of stillness faded behind, but its peace walked beside them. Thus ended the sixth passage of the journey, and the seeker carried the stillness within, a strength beyond sound. The seeker left the valley of stillness and entered a land where the sky stretched wide and restless. Clouds raced overhead, their shapes twisting, their edges burning with hidden light. The air carried a hum, low and constant, as though the heavens whispered secrets to the earth. This was the plateau of winds, a place where the air never slept. Each gust seemed alive, circling, searching, tugging at cloak and hair. The seeker pressed onward, stepped slow against the invisible hands that pulled at every side. The wind was not cruel, yet it was unyielding, always pressing, always testing. It was a challenge of balance, not strength, for no one could outpace the wind. The seeker leaned into the gusts, learning to move with them rather than against. Every stumble taught rhythm. Every pause revealed a hidden pattern in the currents. Soon the seeker noticed voices in the wind, not echoes nor whispers, but songs. The songs carried laughter, grief, hope, all woven into the endless breath of air. The seeker closed their eyes, letting the sound pass through like flowing water. In that surrender, the voices grew clearer, guiding steps across the plateau. One voice, softer than the rest, drew close and spoke within the storm. You seek the shield of light, yet light is not held. It is carried. The seeker's heart beat faster, the words carried on a gust like prophecy. They whispered back, then how do I carry what I do not yet possess? The wind rose in answer, wrapping the seeker in a swirling embrace. Light is not found. It is revealed when the vessel is open. The seeker stumbled, knees brushing stone, but the words lingered stronger than the gale. They remembered the echoes of the forest, the whispers of the meadow, the silence of the valley. Each place had revealed not the world, but themselves. Perhaps the shield was not an object hidden in earth, but a truth uncovered within. The seeker stood, steadied by the rhythm of the rushing air. Instead of fighting, They let the wind guide the step, turning resistance into dance. Each movement grew easier, as though the storm itself was teaching grace. The plateau stretched vast, but the journey across no longer felt endless. The seeker lifted arms, allowing the current to swirl through and around them. Laughter escaped their lips, light and sudden, carried instantly away by the breeze. For the first time, the seeker felt joy rise without reason, born of surrender. The winds answered with a sudden calm, a rare stillness spreading wide. And in that hush, a soft light broke through the clouds above. A beam touched the seeker, warm, not blinding, carrying weight and tenderness together. The voice of the wind returned, now gentle, almost human. Carry the light not as a weapon, but as a flame that warms. The seeker bowed their head, humbled by the lesson carved in air. When the gusts rose again, they felt less like a storm and more like companions. Guided by the wind's rhythm, the seeker found the plateau's edge at last. The endless currents trailed behind like a song that would never fade. The land ahead waited, but now the seeker carried the winds within. Not as burden, but as breath, as freedom, as movement eternal. Thus ended the seventh passage of the journey. And the seeker walked on, lighter, guided by winds that no longer tested, but lifted. The seeker descended from the plateau of winds and found a path leading to a place of quiet shimmer. Rivers wound like silver threads, their surfaces glowing as if kissed by hidden stars. This was the Valley of Reflections, where water held more than the sky above. The seeker approached the first stream and bent to look within. The face reflected was familiar, yet changed. Eyes older, wiser, touched by unseen journeys. But as the water rippled, another image surfaced, softer and strange. It was the seeker as a child, unburdened, with laughter bright and eyes unscarred. The seeker's breath caught, heart aching with both joy and longing. Each stream revealed a different face, the youth of hope, the shadow of doubt, the elder of wisdom. Here reflection was not a single truth, but the many selves carried within. The seeker moved carefully along the water's edge, each glance showing another fragment. At one pool they saw themselves angry, voice sharp, hurting those they loved. At another, they saw themselves kind, offering comfort in quiet moments. The seeker's chest tightened, for the water showed both grace and fault without judgment. It was not punishment, nor praise, only truth revealed as shifting light. The seeker whispered, "Who am I if I am all these faces?" The river replied not in words, but in ripples that spread wide and calm. The reflection blurred, and then the seeker saw the shield, not in hand, not in earth, but within the water's glow. The shield of light was not a thing to take, but a truth to see. It shimmered not as metal, but as harmony, the uniting of all selves. Child, youth, shadow, elder, all parts were pieces of the same whole. The seekers sank to their knees, tears falling, merging with the flowing stream. For the first time, they felt no need to deny, to hide, to separate. Every self, every choice, every moment belonged to the same journey. The water brightened, as if approving, casting ripples of gold across the valley. The seeker rose, strength returning not from denial, but from acceptance. They carried no shield, yet their chest glowed with an unseen radiance. The valleys sang with liquid voices, soft and endless, blessing the seeker's path. The rivers guided their steps forward, opening a way toward the next horizon. Each reflection faded gently, but the lesson remained. To be whole is to be light. The seeker walked on, no longer searching for pieces, but carrying the unity within. Thus ended the eighth passage of the journey. and the seeker moved forward, bearing reflections that no longer divided, but illuminated. The seeker left the valley of reflections with a quiet strength glowing within their chest. The rivers behind them whispered like gentle voices, fading into the distance with each step. Before them rose a forest unlike any they had seen, its trees silver and its leaves shimmering gold. The air carried a hush, as though the entire wood listened for a truth yet to be spoken. This was the Grove of Whispers, where silence was not empty, but filled with secret voices. The seeker entered slowly, their footsteps muffled by the soft moss glowing faintly beneath. Every tree seemed alive, their trunks etched with symbols like constellations carved in bark. When the seeker placed a hand on one trunk, a murmur stirred, soft as breath. It was a memory, not their own, but belonging to someone long forgotten. The tree spoke of a wanderer who sought wisdom and left behind a prayer of hope. The seeker moved deeper, listening as each tree unveiled another hidden voice. Some whispered of love found and cherished, others of sorrow endured and lessons learned. The forest was a library of souls, each tree a vessel of countless untold stories. The seeker closed their eyes and let the whispers flow, a chorus of human longing. They realized the shield of light was not only self, but connection, the threads binding all lives. Suddenly, the grove grew brighter, as if the trees recognized the seeker's awakening heart. 1,000 whispers merged, rising in harmony, forming a voice vast yet tender. It spoke not in command, but in guidance. Carry us with you, for we are you. The seeker felt the truth resonate, each whisper now a spark within their being. They knelt in reverence, pressing their palm to the earth, glowing with shared memory. The ground pulsed warmly, blessing them with unity beyond their single self. The seeker stood, no longer alone, but bearing the weight and grace of many lives. As they walked forward, the grove's whispers softened into a lullaby of endless care. The forest opened to reveal a path lit with golden dust, floating like fireflies. The seeker's steps grew lighter, steadier, carrying both their own voice and those of the countless. Behind them, the trees shimmered, knowing their stories were safe within the seeker's spirit. Ahead, the horizon widened, hinting at trials yet to come, but also greater clarity. The seeker touched their chest, feeling the quiet harmony of whispers woven within. The shield of light was forming, not of steel, but of memory and connection. And so, they carried onward, guided by voices that no longer whispered, but sang. Thus ended the 9th passage of the journey. And the seeker walked forward, with the strength of many hearts glowing as one. The seeker journeyed beyond the Grove of Whispers, where the voices faded into silence like distant echoes. The path curved upward toward a range of mountains gleaming pale against the horizon. Each peak glowed faintly, as if the sky had laid its stars upon the stone. This was the stair of horizons, where every step carried the weight of countless choices. The seeker climbed slowly, their breath steady, their heart filled with the whispers carried from the grove. But the air grew thin, and the silence pressed against them, testing their strength. At the first plateau, the seeker found an ancient stone carved with 2 paths. One path led to a valley of comfort, safe and quiet, where time would not touch. The other path rose steep and jagged, filled with challenge but promising wider sight. The seeker paused, the choice heavy, yet their spirit leaned toward the climb, for they had not come this far to rest in shadows of ease. They stepped onto the harder path, and the mountain seemed to breathe beneath their feet. At the second plateau, the wind carried visions, swirling like smoke before their eyes. They saw a life untouched by risk, filled with small joys but limited horizons. Then another life filled with struggle and growth, reaching beyond, though never certain of ease. The seeker touched the vision, and it dissolved, leaving behind a single question. Do you walk for safety or for truth? The seeker whispered, for truth, and the mountain answered with silence, vast and approving. The climb grew harsher, rocks sharp, the air thin, yet light shimmered stronger above. At the third plateau, they saw themselves as others saw them, faces shifting like mirrors. Some saw kindness, some strength, some stubbornness, some fear. Yet all reflections held part of truth. The seeker bowed, realizing the shield was built not of pride, but of understanding. Every reflection mattered, even those difficult to see, for they were part of the whole. The mountain trembled, and the path opened higher, gleaming like a ribbon of starlight. The seeker climbed again, legs weary, heart bright, each step echoing with unseen strength. At last they reached the summit, where the horizon spread wide as eternity. Mountains, valleys, seas, and skies stretched endlessly, woven into a single living tapestry. The seekers stood at the edge, wind lifting their hair, light filling their chest. Here they understood. The journey was not about reaching a single end, but seeing all. The shield of light was not a weapon, nor even an object, but vision itself. To see beyond self, beyond fear, beyond comfort, into the boundless truth of connection. The summit glowed, and the seeker glowed with it, radiant and steady as dawn. They raised their hands, not to grasp, but to embrace the horizon laid before them. And the light embraced them back, gentle, endless, carrying them into the next passage. Thus ended the 10th step of the journey. And the seeker walked on, holding horizons in their heart as both guide and shield. The seeker walked until the path no longer wound upward, but spread wide into a field of endless light. The air shimmered as if woven from dawn itself, each ray bending gently to guide their steps forward. No shadow lingered here, only the quiet glow of clarity that softened the heart and steadied the breath. The seeker paused, feeling the weight of the long journey behind them, each step etched into memory. The valley of reflections, the grove of whispers, the stair of horizons, all lived now within their chest. They understood the shield was never meant to be found in stone or hidden in the earth. It had always been forming within, crafted by courage, by memory, by connection, and by vision. The light before them shimmered, and from it arose the figure of Athena, radiant and calm. Her eyes carried both wisdom and kindness, like the stillness of stars that watch without judgment. She spoke not with command, but with a voice that felt like thought, blooming in the seeker's mind. You have sought what many believe lies beyond reach, yet you have found it within. The seeker bowed, though no demand was made, only gratitude flowing like rivers through their spirit. Athena lifted her hand, and the light gathered, forming a shield that hovered in the air. It was vast, yet weightless, glowing with every face, every story, every horizon the seeker carried. The goddess placed it gently into their grasp, though it felt like holding nothing at all. For the shield was not armor against the world, but a mirror of the truth within. The seeker felt its warmth spread, binding them to all lives, all choices, all paths unseen. Athena's voice lingered softly. Carry this light not for battle, but for guidance, for healing, for hope. And with that, she faded into the radiance, leaving the seeker alone, yet never alone again. The field brightened, and the seeker understood their journey was not ending, but beginning anew. The shield of light was not the final reward, but the companion for every road to come. They turned, and the horizon stretched wide, full of valleys, forests, rivers, and skies yet unexplored. Every step forward would carry the light of unity, reflection, and vision they had earned. The seeker walked on, not as one searching, but as one bearing a gift to share. For the shield was not theirs alone, but belonged to every voice that had shaped its glow. Each whisper, each reflection, each choice lived on, woven into the fabric of the shield's song. And so, the journey became more than a tale of one soul. It became a story for all. A story carried in the quiet of rivers, in the voices of trees, in the wind of peaks. Wherever the seeker walked, the world itself seemed to breathe lighter, touched by the radiance within. They smiled, not in triumph, but in peace, knowing the path would never truly end. Thus closed the tale of Athena and the shield of light, not as a story of conquest, but as a story of becoming whole and walking forward with hope.